Well, hello, friends. I'd like to invite you to a new two-part webinar series called Saturn and the Kore Goddess with the amazing Safron Rossi. And Safron's here with me today to tell you a little bit about the webinar. So thanks for joining me, Safron. And can you tell folks a little bit about what to expect in this presentation?
Absolutely, Tony. Thanks for having me. So we all know the outer face of Saturn, which we encounter in our rust-encrusted experiences of limitation, restriction, frustration, delays, and discipline. But the alchemist would say that the gold comes through the rust. And my own way of thinking about the role of Saturn in our soul making is that it symbolizes a freedom or the freedom that comes from discovering and then rooting into the ground of our inner values. It is the psychological freedom that comes when we make space within ourselves for ourselves. In other words, when we become metaphorically Kore virgin. And this is what I want to bring out in the course of this two-part seminar that I'm doing. But I want to bring this part out of Saturn in a new way, but through a very ancient archetypal figure, which is the Kore. And that's the ancient Greek word for virgin. And this figure has been in the shadows for a really long time, but I believe is reemerging collectively and individually. And so, as I've defined in my book, The Kore Goddess, the Kore being the archetypal virgin or maiden is a youthful figure who is one in herself. And to characterize this figure as archetypal is to recognize its universality and its timeless psychological value. And this value is associated with psychological integrity. So the Kore's virginity or unto oneselfness describes what it means to be grounded in our essential nature as an individual. And she's also the figure who seems to be most directly concerned with our connection to the interior rhythms of our being. And so contact with this archetype can bring with it a sense of sovereignty and potency. So, and just to help people kind of think of this, I mean, the Kore archetype is personified by the great virgin goddesses of the Greek mythic pantheon. So that includes Persephone, Artemis, and Athena. And so to bring this back to Saturn, I mean, in the course of my study of this particular figure, I've really come to understand the Kore Virgin as personifying the weighty gifts of Saturn. One in herself, the Kore helps us see how Saturn symbolizes a deep integrity grounded in our essential nature and character. So what I'm proposing is that we take a new look at an old devil, to borrow the subtitle from Liz Green's master text on Saturn. And the last thing I just want to say is that, working off of Liz Green's subtitle, this new look at an old devil, I mean, the devil is a figure who, personifies like trouble, like the dark, the shadow, right? And in the archetypal and psychological approach to astrology, I mean, it is Saturn who carries some of this darkness or trouble of the psyche. And, most people are familiar with the concept of the shadow and the idea that we tend to hold forward what is conducive and imagine into what is good while we push away what is dark and problematic. But sometimes it's the reverse, which I think is the case with Saturn. We need to retrieve the positive shadow of Saturn because that's what seems to fall in the shadow. So the redemptive part, the creative part, and I think the Kore is the figure that shines a light on that part of Saturn. So that's what I endeavor to share, with people that come.
Beautiful. Thanks for that, Saffron. I love that mission. That's such a valuable mission. I think of Saturn as speaking to this dynamic that we've been talking about in the last few years called negativity bias. And I think we also have a negativity bias. I think it comes into play as we just described Saturn. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to share in this work to help offset some of that. So thanks for putting this together for us. And I also just want to call out that this is based on some work that you've been doing for some time, because it turned into a wonderful book called The Kore Goddess, A Mythology and Psychology. So if you're interested in learning more about that, definitely check out Saffron's book on the subject. But if you'd like to tune in to the webinar, head over to astrologyuniversity.com/events, where you can find this webinar listed if you're tuning into this particular video before it's live. And if you head over there and you don't see it there, just type in the word Kore into the search field of any page of the website, and that's Kore. You could also look for Saturn, although we have a lot of other talks about Saturn. So that might get you a quick hit, is just type in the word Kore and you'll find the webinar there. If you have any trouble finding it, need help registering, just email us at help@astrologyuniversity.com and we would be happy to help you out. Well, thanks so much for joining me today, Saffron, and I really look forward to seeing your presentation.
Thanks. Me too, Tony.
All right. And until next time, take good care, folks.